Oh boy, Matt, we've got a big card today. Thanks everybody for joining us. And hey, we're caffeinated, we're ready. It's 11 a.m. local time for a lot of you. We're starting at 10 a.m. Eastern. If you're over on the West Coast, good morning. Hey, welcome.
Hello.
If you're over in Europe, if you're in Asia, hey, you're later on in the day than we are. But hey, we've got a great card coming up tonight. Khabib taking on Justin Gaethje in our main event, our co-main event, Whittaker and Cannonier. And Fight Night Picks today is brought to you by ringsidebeerstore.com. Make sure you check them out. ringsidebeerstore.com for our viewers only. Use that promo code that's up on the screen, FNP. You're going to save 25% off your order today. They've got some great merch. Sometimes we wear the shirts. We got some great tap handles here for your beer. I've got the boxing glove tap handle. I've got the MMA glove tap handle. Matt, make sure you check it out. It's ringsidebeerstore.com. Use promo code FNP. You can save 25% off your order today. Let's get into it. Fight Night Picks is brought to you by Vertiball. Head on over to their website. It's vertiball.com. And listen, it's an awesome product. It's a local company out of New Brunswick, Canada. So make sure you support those guys locally as well as Fight Night Picks. But they're the only mountable portable muscle massager. They can stick on any smooth surface. They've got an industrial strength suction cup. Can support over 100 pounds of pressure. You can get really into those deep knots. I have one here at home. I use it for my back and my shoulders from holding up that Fight Night Picks Pick'em trophy. But listen, make sure you check them out. It's a great product. Like I said, they're recommended by physiotherapists, masseuses, and chiropractors across Canada, the US, UK, and Australia. And they're used by countless professional athletes like Minka Fitzpatrick on screen there, as well as Clellan Farrell of the Raiders. So if you head into the cart, make sure you check them out. So I've got a Vertiball massager in my cart right there. Use the promo code FNP. You're going to save 10% off your order. You're supporting this company here that I'm very passionate about in New Brunswick, Canada, and you're helping out us as well. So make sure you check them out, vertiball.com, promo code FNP, 10% off your order. And without further ado, let's get into it.
Ladies and gentlemen, recorded in Fredericton, New Brunswick, Canada. It's time for the Fight Night Picks podcast with your host, Craig
And Matt.
Allen.
Oh boy, Matt, we have a big card coming up. Appreciate everybody so far that's been tuning in. We've already got a super chat up top. Really appreciate that from ABK225 and Matt. This card, what can I say? If we're going as far as letter grades, you got to go A+. You have such a good fight at the top of this one. You have Justin Gaethje, who was taking the promo picks and just threw the belt away, taking on arguably one of the greatest martial artists of all time in Khabib Nurmagomedov. The guy's undefeated. The people that he's fought, it's just absolutely insane, this run that he's been on so far in the UFC. The one blemish, Daryl Horcher. Why did you fight Daryl Horcher? Such a weird fight. No, but he had the win there. It's an amazing one. Appreciate everybody already that's filling up that chat. And like I said, super chat pops up there. We get a chance to see it. You're supporting the channel as well. The other thing I got to say, hey, Fight Night Picks merch, fightnightpicks.net. There's a link down below for that as well. And we're going to be ripping through this entire card. But Matt, we've been spending the last hour listening to a lot of tunes, getting really excited for this one. We got Nicholas Thompson saying 7 a.m. PST. I'm ready. Let's get into it. Kale Graham, hashtag free Matt. It's been working. But hey, hashtag free Matt. You got to pay. You got to pay a salary. Come on. This is where we get it. But hey. Really good card, and the way that we've been structuring these Fight Night Picks kick shows, we're going to whip through our picks, we're going to go back through the card, and then the other thing that we're going to do, we're going to go over to our Instagram page, at Fight Night Picks on Instagram. You can find us there, and that's where you're going to find all the votes, all the numbers that we're going to go over, you can find them there. So at Fight Night Picks, when you're following along at home, that's where I'm going to be getting my votes and my numbers from. So Matt, the thing that we've done recently, switching things up a little bit, is the fact that we're going into the fight of the night screen. Matt, this happens to be your fight of the night. What do you think about this one? Nathaniel Wood, Casey Kenny. Dana White came out this week and said, we're not a fan of doing catchweight fights. We have a catchweight at 140 pounds between these two normally bantamweights.
This is such an interesting fight to me because it's not many times that you have this high level of a prospect fighting each other. And yes, that is Nathaniel Wood's nickname, but we saw where Nathaniel Wood's ceiling might potentially be. Yes, he lost to John Dodson, but other than that, in the UFC, he normally just runs everyone else over. And Casey Kenny, he lost to Merab Dvalishvili, who also beat John Dodson, for whatever that's worth. And then after that, or even before that, Casey Kenny, phenomenal scrambler. He's got wrestling, he's got striking, good power, good cardio, great output. I'm so excited for this fight because I really do think that whoever does win this is going to shoot up those rankings so fast.
I think this is an awesome fight. It seems like a lot of people are in agreement with you.
Yeah.
I mean, we got Usman hanging out. We got
great.
It Could Happen 21 from the Instagrams. Your fight of the night. You called it last week. Time is not aligned. It's got Casey Kenny all day. You and Matt need to fight, and the winner gets to keep the show. I beat the piss out of this poor kid. Now, let's get into my fight of the night. I've got Alex Oliveira and Shavkat Rakhmonov, and here's why. I mean, Rakhmonov, from what we've seen with M1 Global, and that's the one where you got to spend a little bit of the dinero, you got to spend a little bit of the question mark kicks money to actually watch the fights over on Fight TV.
Yeah.
But from what we've seen, this guy's taken on good competition. I know there was a couple comments where they said, hasn't fought good competition. Nobody was all that good on the M1 scale, but it really was. And for Alex Oliveira, he's a fight of the night waiting to happen. It just depends on if he shows up on fight night. Now, I know he showed up and missed weight, 173. That's not a good look. You had another person miss weight on this card, even worse. We'll get into that next. But Matt, I mean, looking at this, Oliveira and Shavkat Rakhmonov, that's my fight of the night. And I mean, Craig saying, don't let him talk to you like that. Matt, is that me in my head or is that the commenter?
Who knows?
I'm just kidding. But Matt, in terms of this whole card, let's get down and dirty. We'll start with the bottom end of the prelims. You got Joel Alvarez, El Fenomeno, taking on Alexander Yakovlev. Now, I changed up a couple of these graphics going into this because A, the picture that I got for Jacob Malkoun off of the Instagrams was not that great of a picture. But B, we had some weight changes to account for. This one I didn't, but Joel Alvarez came in way over, 4.5 pounds over the 155, so 3.5 pounds over the weight limit. I want to know what people are thinking here. I mean, hopefully Alex gets knocked out. Missing weight is not fair. Well, Alex didn't miss weight, so there's that. But yeah, I mean, I look at this fight, and Joel Alvarez, like I said, you miss weight that bad. He's such a submission threat. They're both such big fighters, and I mean, if you saw them at weigh-ins, Robert hanging out with the super chat, the $10, get that tide going. Once the tide starts rolling in, it don't stop. I mean, hopefully. But Matt, again, you look at this, Joel Alvarez didn't look great on the scale. Does that worry you at all? And the other thing I wanted to point out, and I got a lot of questions about this one, this line moved quite a bit this week. 31% coming in on Alexander Yakovlev. You look at Joel Alvarez. When we made the video last weekend, he was a minus 265 or thereabouts. Joel Alvarez right now, minus 172. Does the weight cut worry you? And are you in agreement with the odds here? Because to me, this one's still a pass. It was a pass when it was minus 285. It's still a pass now. And for those of you that want to say, oh, the boys never pick underdogs, we had Alvarez to beat Joe Duffy. And hey, I had Derek Minner to beat TJ Laramie. So if we're going with the moderate underdogs, there is that. And I just kid and joke. But I look at this one, I think the weight would almost help a guy like that.
Okay, it's never good to miss weight because it normally means that something went wrong in your camp, or that's always what I think of. I always think that they must have had an injury or they weren't training hard enough or just something along those lines. With Alvarez, though, I feel like it's a safe enough pick. I wouldn't put any money on it like you had said, but he's such a good grappler. He's got really good striking, stands really tall. I do think that the pros do outweigh the cons, even though the con is missing weight. I'm still picking Alvarez, even though I'm not all that confident after the weight miss. Because tough weight cuts, you never know. Like we were talking before, Khabib cuts a ton of weight, and normally when a guy cuts a ton of weight, they don't have a good chin and the cardio is not good. He's got great in both those categories, so I'm really not sure what to get from Joel Alvarez, but I still think he'll be able to get the win.
Yeah, I mean, I've got Alvarez in this one too. You're not really ever going to see me change too many of my picks, but this is one of those ones that I'm going to stick with. And I mean, Thomas Hewitt brings up a good point. Yakovlev losing to Roberts concerns me. The only thing with that one is Roosevelt Roberts fights in a totally different style than Joel Alvarez. I mean, he is a long, lanky fighter, Roberts is, but we've seen it where his grappling's not the very best, but his hands are great. So that's the thing you have to worry about with him. With Joel Alvarez, he throws some sneaky kicks, he does. But again, it's definitely his grappling that gets the better of most guys. 15 of those 17 wins by sub as well. So let's move into the next one. This one's contentious, and you know what? We got to move back just a second because we ripped the promo for Fight Night Picks over on Instagram, then we don't touch it. So for this fight, Joel Alvarez, Alexander Yakovlev at Fight Night Picks, 211 total votes for Joel Alvarez to about 37 for Yakovlev. That's good for 85% on Joel Alvarez. Galiki Private Business, Roosevelt is terrible. I mean, he's a UFC fighter. He's not that bad. So we move into the next one. This one was really contentious because there's a lot of people in the comments going with Liana Jojua. And I think as far as an underdog pick and a pretty big underdog pick, she's probably one of the better ones. Now, am I picking her to win? No, but we did say in the original prediction video, unless you're somebody that skips to the end, we gave her a benefit of the doubt. This line's way overpriced for Miranda Maverick, and if you watch any of the interviews from this week on Maverick, she kind of danced around the subject without diving into exactly what the issue was. But the fact that she had knee surgery in her last layoff, it kind of concerns you a little bit. Now, is it all that worrisome? I mean, it could have been, doctors went in there to clean up some bone chips. I don't know. Who knows? It could have been ACL surgery. We don't know. But it seems like camp went well. She's all prepared for this one. Liana Jojua, you know that her wrestling's good. Her throws are good. Her submission abilities are good. Miranda Maverick, another young fighter. I mean, we're talking about 25 and 23 on the opposite sides. But again, this line, way too overpriced. You look at it right now, and this is the one that's moved the most out of the total card, 66% going towards Maverick. She opened a minus 140. She's now a minus 414 over on Best Fight Odds. For Jojua, plus 320. I want to know what people are thinking on this one. I mean, Gleeky Private Business, Jojua by knockout, not necessarily known for that. Branch above, Jojua by decision. And Gleeky, I'm not trying to pick on you here, but it seems like I am. Elder's got Miranda. Gleeky again, Jojua by knockout 100%. If that happens, it happens. That'd be the cat's ass. I just don't think it's going to happen. And in this one, it's a really tough one. Scrummy, you're an absolute dingus. But in this one, Matt, it's a tough one to try and predict because with Liana Jojua, we saw it. The Sarah Morris fight didn't go well.
It was awful.
It was in the same climate. I mean, again, it was UFC 242 in Abu Dhabi. It didn't go well. Up a weight class against Sarah Morris. She bounces back and gets a big win over Diana Belbizia. I think Miranda Maverick's quite a bit better than Diana Belbizia.
Exactly. And Miranda Maverick has the counter wrestling that Jojua is going to have to rely on. Because if Jojua does want to get this fight won, she's going to have to get to the ground at some point. You have to know, Miranda Maverick has the wrestling defense. Her striking is quite a bit better than Jojua's. And really, she is just the more dynamic of the two MMA fighters because she can get done on the feet or on the ground no matter where the fight does end up happening. So I'm going with Miranda Maverick. I'm sticking with the pick. I'm kind of surprised the odds have swayed that far in her direction.
And there's another thing. I mean, Georgian fighters right now, absolutely on fire.
Wild.
And that's the thing. I mean, if you're going to pick Liana Jojua, I mean, power to you. If she wins, I mean, the She-Wolf, that'd be a big win for her, especially over somebody that's hyped like this coming in from Invicta with some decent wins. I mean, we talked about them. The Deanna Bennett win, that is a big win. It really is. Same thing with the Pearl Gonzalez fight as well. And we've seen what she can do over Invicta. I worry a little bit. I think it's going to be a good fight. But yeah, I'm going to stick with the pick of Miranda Maverick in this one. But the line, again, way overpriced. Doesn't make a whole lot of sense. So we have a look at our next fight. Dawoon Jung, Sam Alvey. This is one of the more confident picks on this card. And this is really similar to the fight that you had with Dawoon Jung's teammate last weekend. You had Jun Young Park taking on John Phillips. What happened? Jun Young Park beat the piss out of poor John Phillips. Now, in this one, Sam Alvey, what's he good at? Totally different things than John Phillips. I will say that. I mean, with Sam Alvey with his back up against the cage, he actually does pretty good work. He really does. He's sneaky with his elbows. He's sneaky with those front chokes that you had mentioned in the original prediction video. There's a lot of things he can get you in. Dawoon Jung is such a superior striker, though, in this matchup. And I'm really looking forward to this fight. I know a lot of people were talking more or less about the pick on this one and more about the over-under. I think that this one is like a slam dunk for Dawoon Jung.
Again, when was the last time anyone's ever confidently picked Sam Alvey to win a fight in the UFC? And I don't mean that to be hard on him. It's just Sam Alvey hasn't had a great performance in a meaningful amount of time. Even some of his wins, you look at them, like the Jean Vellante fight, and it was just a really low output, not a lot going on fight that he did end up winning, but Sam Alvey's not the type of guy who I ever see beating a top 10, a top 15 guy. And at this point, Dawoon Jung, like you had mentioned, way better striker. I don't really see him getting caught by Sam Alvey. And Sam Alvey's not this thunderous puncher where he can just go out there and if he's losing a fight, he can Derek Lewis it and just turn it around with 1 second left. Not really how it works. Sam Alvey, he's going to go have his weird kind of output fights. He has good power if you do walk into a shot, but I really don't see Dawoon Jung making that mistake.
And I mean, you look at this one over on at Fight Night Picks on the Instagrams, 234 total votes for Dawoon Jung, 38 for Sam Alvey. That's good for 86% on Dawoon Jung. And again, the line, is it all that great? Well, not so much. I mean, Dawoon Jung is pretty saturated to this point. Open to minus 600, though. Now at a minus 349. The money's come in on Alvey to the tune of 32%. So there is that. But again, main training partner. You've got Dawoon Jung with Jun Young Park. Two guys that are just going up in this world at 185 and 205 pounds like we have in this fight. I think it's going to be a good one. But again, still siding with Dawoon Jung. Now we get into my pick for fight of the night. we've got Alex Oliveira taking on Shavkat Rakhmonov. And Matt, we talked about this getting ready for it. I mean, again, this is my fight of the night, so it should be a good one. Alex Oliveira, what does he do well?
So he's got really good range striking. He has good, he has a good top game. Off the bottom, it's kind of weird because we've seen him against a guy like Gunnar Nelson, for instance, who, yes, is one of the better grapplers in the UFC. He beat the brakes off Alex Oliveira, especially on the ground. On the feet, it is weird because he throws those really long front kicks. He's got good striking, but it's like motivated BJ Penn and motivated Alex Oliveira. They're kind of in the same category of mythical MMA figures. Because Alex Oliveira, you don't really know what you're going to get. You're either going to get that crazy, violent Brazilian cowboy that everyone knows and loves from getting all the fight of the nights, or you're going to get the, I'm not going to throw a lot of volume, I'm going to try to clown my opponent, almost Paulo Costa-esque, and then get beat. So it's really weird what you're going to get from Alex Oliveira, and he is one of the more inconsistent fighters in the UFC.
And I mean, our pal out of Australia, Odin Turnbull, saying people sleeping on Oliveira in this one. It's true. I mean, this line has moved the most out of any of the lines this week, which to me was a little, second most. Shavkat Rakhmonov, the money's committed a 42% clip. He opened an underdog at plus 130. He's now the minus 134. Average favorite on best fight odds for Alex Oliveira, open a minus 150, now at a plus 111. And again, I mean, you look at the comments. Devin Davis saying Oliveira is in autopilot mode for this one. Short notice fight, just wants a paycheck. And he come in overweight, and that's one of those ones where it's 173. He didn't stop cutting, he didn't stop at a certain point and then just go, screw it, I'm going out on the scale. He really didn't look all that good. Mystic Sosa, he's been riding with horses, I guess. I mean, I look at this one again. You look at Shavkat Rakhmonov and the work that he's done coming into the UFC, and then you look at the fights that fell out. He was supposed to take on Bartosz Fabinski. That fight didn't happen due to the card falling apart. Then Ramzan Ameev. Well, that fight just fell out. Rakhmonov unable to make it. And then after that, a fight against Eliseo Zaleski dos Santos where Zaleski pops out, in steps Alex Oliveira. That's how high of company the UFC, and that's what they think of this guy. They think of him very highly, and with a guy like Shavkat Rakhmonov, couple wins over that type of talent, you're already in the top 15 of one of the busiest divisions in the game. I mean, think about how long it took Vicente Luque to get ranked. So there's just one example I have for you. I think it should be a really good fight. Martial arts fans saying fade Oliveira. We into Fieldhouse. I got Shavkat at a plus 115.
That's fair.
I got him early on in the week too at a decent plus as well. I'm sticking with the pick. It's one of the... It's not as confident as the Jung fight, but overall, I think this one should be a great fight. And I've got Shavkat Rakhmonov. I mean, again, the throws that he had, the balls that he had against a Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu black belt to just take it to the ground and have fun down there. I don't worry about him so much in this fight. I mean, could Alex Oliveira go in and starch him? Maybe, but is it like we see Alex Oliveira going in there and getting first-round knockouts? No, it's been a long while. So I think it should be a good fight. But again, I've got Shavkat Rakhmonov in this one. Matt, now we get into your fight of the night. We got Nathaniel Wood taking on Casey Kenny. The one thing that was asked to me during this week was, do you guys worry about the fact that Casey Kenny fought, 2.5 weeks ago, 3 weeks ago, when he took on Haile Alatang? Now, he beat the brakes off of Haile Alatang. But with Casey Kenny, he went back to the States, and then he came back over to Abu Dhabi. Do you worry about that?
A little bit, but I've never flown to Abu Dhabi and then back to North America and then back to Abu Dhabi in only a 2-week stretch. And for Casey Kenny... His last fight was so easy. You got to think he's not coming into this heavily damaged. It's not like it's a UFC 2 tournament where you're fighting 3 times in one night and you got to carry the damage forward. Nathaniel Wood, there's so many question marks around him because I don't know where his ceiling is anymore. I know kind of the Cage Warriors Nathaniel Wood where it was, I'm just going to throw crazy bombs and get into these wild brawls and sometimes I'll win. Well, most of the time I'll win. He's got great submissions, great top game. But again, in the Dodson fight, we saw that he does have trouble with guys that have really good hand speed. Not to say Casey Kenny is that guy, but he is a good striker, and we've seen the progression of his striking, especially just in the UFC. You can look back at the Ray Borg fight, where it was basically, here's just a ton of scrambles, then you kind of look at the evolution of him. He's added a lot of kicks into his game, he's got great calf kicks, great body kicks. Casey Kenny is starting to fight, and not to a T, but he's starting to fight a little bit like Pedro Munoz, where he knows he has a really good ground game. He's not all that bothered if you try to take him down, so he can throw these kicks with 100% power behind them, because he's not really worried of, you're going to shoot a double leg or a single leg and put me on my back, because honestly, him off his back, he's going to initiate the scrambles. He's going to make you tired. And I think Nathaniel Wood, if he is starting to lose some of the striking exchanges early on, then Casey Kenny will make him tired and really start to put it on him as the fight moves forward.
I mean, it's such a good fight. It's such a tough one to try and predict, too, because for Nathaniel Wood, the level of competition isn't quite there. I know we talked about that in the original prediction video. I mean, you look at the guys he was beating. Well, Teco, Jose Alberto Canones. It's not like he's really lighting the world on fire these days. He has a fight against John Dodson, and Matt, I don't know how that slipped through the cracks. Honest to God, I had no idea he was out of the UFC, which is really weird. Like, for two-time former, title challenger, it's just like, let's get rid of the OGs. John Dodson, no more Demetrius Johnson. It just sucks. But you look at this fight, Nathaniel Wood, the level of competition hasn't been there. When he was with Cage Warriors, some insane finishes, fighting more to decision than anything.
Yeah.
Casey Kenny can fight to a decision, but he makes it incredibly interesting. You brought it up. I mean, the amount of kicks that he throws. But Nathaniel Wood, too, his last fight against a short notice call-up in John Castaneda, we pointed it out, the fact that he really started to land the kicks. Maybe you do worry about the fact that Casey Kenny really set things up in that Haile Tang fight. Maybe his leg isn't all the way 100%. But I mean, I look at the odds here. There's definitely some juice with Nathaniel Wood at a plus 131, open to plus 115. The money came in on Casey early, and now it's kind of starting to pop back up. At one point, Casey Kenny was about a minus 200 favorite. So I still like Casey Kenny in this one. I'm not changing my pick. But overall, it should be a great fight. The official CFW, both respected fighters. Today's going to be interesting. 100%. I mean, it should be a good one. But again, I mean, as far as a pick, like, in terms of confidence, you really like Casey Kenny in this one?
I do, but Nathaniel Wood can't be disrespected. It just, Nathaniel Wood, again, if he does go out there, he's got really good boxing, he does have crisp boxing, and if he can get to Casey Kenny early on, really prove a point with your striking, start to really damage him, force him to shoot on you, not the other way around, because if Casey Kenny's the one trying to take you down, you can stuff it, you can make him tired, but again, you going for the takedown on Casey Kenny, kind of playing into his game plan, because he's going to make you work constantly, and he's probably going to end up on top anyway, so I think there's more than a path to victory for Nathaniel Wood. This, again, you can't call something a fight of the night and think that it's just going to be a one-way train all Casey Kenny, so I think this will be super competitive. I'm really excited for it, but I'm sticking with the Casey Kenny pick.
All right, Matt. So we have a look at this one. I mean, you got Kenny. Let's bounce back. Let's go back to this one. Let's have a look. So we go over on to Instagram. We got to talk about the picks a little bit more. 191 total votes for Casey Kenny at Fight Night Picks on Instagram. And over on the left-hand side for Nathaniel Wood, 82. That's good for a 70% clip of the fans going with Casey Kenny. Now, Matt, we have a look at our next fight, and this one to me is the toughest one. This is a coin flip. This is one of those ones where people get really excited, scummy or a dingus, and we look at this one, Stefan Struve. What's he good at? Well, he's not good with distance management, even though he's 7 feet tall, and he's a guy that's trained over at a great gym in Hard Knocks 365 for quite a while now, but really has it worked out for him? I don't know. I mean, in that Ben Rothwell fight, he was starting to have a lot of success. And Tai Tuivasa and Ben Rothwell, what do? Well, they're pressure fighters. They are. And Stefan Struve was doing well until the nut shots started to take their toll, and Tan Dan started to kind of influence it a little bit. And Ben Rothwell picked up a really good win. So for Stefan Struve, in his last 5 fights, we're 1-4 to this point. For Tai Tuivasa, he's lost 3 in a row. Now, he has credited the fact that he's been going to American Top Team, but he didn't spend a lot of time at American Top Team, so I don't know how much that plays into this one. You look at it, I mean, you're a guy like Tai Tuivasa, you're training with the Daniel Cormiers, the Cain Velasquez. Is it good? Yeah, 100% it is. I mean, it's a lot better. So. And the fact that when you're at home, you get to train with guys like the Tyson Pedros, the Mark Hunts, and so on and so forth. That's great. Now, Devin Davis brings up a really good point over there, if I can pop over. The fact that Struve looked really good against Rothwell. I don't think Tai Tuivasa can take those body and head kicks that Struve was throwing. That's 100% true. And in the original video, I had Struve, Matt. You had Tuivasa. But this is such a tough one to have in terms of confidence level.
Oh, it really is. Now, I'm going to talk about a Marcin Tybura fight, which is not something I ever thought I'd do on this show. But in the Marcin Tybura-Stefan Struve fight, I think you can kind of use that as a precursor to this one, because Marcin Tybura kind of ducks every time he throws punches. And there was a couple times where Struve was able to throw a front kick right up the middle, catch him in the chin. He rocked him once in the second round with that. I'm a little interested to see if Struve can get, a technique like that off some of those middle attacks, uppercuts, knees, because Tai Tuivasa is going to be crashing into him a lot. We saw that even in the Judo Santos fight. Before he lost that fight, of course, he was doing fairly well, but he has this tendency to just crash forward. And every time, you just kind of end up in the clinch. He has you up against the fence. And if you just stay there and wait, he is going to throw elbows. He's really going to hurt you. But if you're smart enough to get your back off the cage, you can, put it in the middle of the cage and make him uncomfortable. And with Tai Tuivasa, the place he's most uncomfortable is off of his back, where Stefan Struve is really good on top. So it does come down to, can Stefan Struve either A, get a takedown or drop Tai Tuivasa, get this fight on the mat, and then go for a submission? Because unless Tai Tuivasa starts unloading with the leg kick, I'm not sure if he can get the knockout as the fight progresses. And I am still going to pick Tai Tuivasa. I'll be very open about that. I don't really know what we're going to get from him, because I do think his greatest skill, which would be that low calf kick, is going to absolutely destroy Stefan Struve's front leg. I just don't know if that's going to be enough, and if his takedown defense is going to be enough too to keep this fight standing.
I mean, with Stefan Struve, again, the ground game's there. If he starts including the kicks, that could be great. For Tai Tuivasa, there's a really good point brought up. The fact that he's abstaining from the alcohols, and the fact that, he's really into this. You listen to the things that he says. I don't like to put too much stock into stuff like this. Like, if you listen to the preview with Mortal Kombat where Brian Campbell was talking to Rashad Evans, I'll let the cat out of the bag. Rashad Evans in the main event took Justin Gaethje, and in the co-main he took Cannonier. Why? Because of their energies and the way that they were feeling going into the fight. And he likes what they were saying. I don't really read a lot into that kind of stuff, but I do like all of the things that Tai Tuivasa said before this one. I've been switched on. I had to. 3 losses kind of kick your ass. I've had to sit down with myself, take a look in the mirror, all that kind of stuff, and the fact that he's really trying to turn it around. I'm all for it. I'm fine with that. So for Tai Tuivasa, I like to hear that kind of thing from this guy. And I'm really convinced that Tai Tuivasa can more than likely get a win in this one.
Yeah.
I think you'd be crazy not to. And in a fight like this, I mean, you look at it for the parts and pieces. Again, Struve has a hard time with kicks. For Tai Tuivasa, the guy throws like a truck, and when he's on, he's on. I think with a guy like Stefan Struve, he can certainly get the win over him. So I'm going to switch the pick, and I'm going to go with Tai Tuivasa in this one. Is it the most confident pick? No, it isn't.
It's pretty easy to pick Tai Tuivasa when Chael Sonnen, and this is a direct quote, has openly said, the only reason Stefan Struve's in the UFC is because he's 7 feet tall. And that's a terrible thing to say. But other than the gimmick of him being so tall, I really don't see the full skill set of a guy who's going to really move up the ranks anytime soon.
And it's crazy that you have a fight that's so good in your main event. This is your featured prelim. That sucks. That's bad. I mean, there might be some people watching it over on the YouTube. And we got Brock Lyons over there. I'm going to show that comment. I don't know why it's hiding it because you're in all caps. Like the video, boys. Let's get the likes up. I mean, hey, you got to get the likes up. You got to hit up the super chat. You got to help out the boys so we can be here on Saturdays doing this thing. I mean, Matt's going to be quitting his job and doing this full time. So you got to help the boys out. If we have a look at the total votes over at Fight Night Picks on Instagram, 155 total votes for Tuivasa, 117 for Struve. That's good for 57% for the fighter from Australia. And I mean, overall, should be a great fight. But like I said, I'm switching it to Tuivasa. So let's move on to our main event. We got about a half hour left before the fight starts. So you got Magomed Ankalaev taking on Ion Cutelaba. And hey, if you wanted to get hard on us in our video, that's fair. I mean, we kind of sucked in that one. Because we went back. We gave you the first of 4 previews of Ankalaev Cutelaba. And the fact that, Ion Cutelaba, was he hurt in that fight? Okay, let's say. Bit. Maybe a little bit, but no. He was getting hit, but not that much. And if you look at the total strikes, it's about 5 for Ion Cutelaba and 8 for Magomed Ankalaev. He was doing the rope-a-dope. So let's put that where it is. In this fight, though, this is one of those Fight Night Picks things that we talk about all the time. You have the technical striking, and you have a guy that hits so damn hard in Cutelaba. Technical striking with Ankalaev. And I saw a lot of people say, well, Magomed Ankalaev, who's he really beat? Are there any real big names there? Well, Klidson Abreu's not that big of a name. The Paul Craig fight that he lost, it is what it is to this point. But Magomed Ankalaev has been consistent. He's one of the most efficient strikers in this division that we've seen.
The Dalcha knockout was insane.
The Dalcha knockout, the Cutelaba win, Klidson Abreu, Marcin Prachnio, yikes. And I mean, even before that, Wagner Prado was in the UFC. I mean, Max Grecian, where you're knocking him out in a 5-round fight in the 4th round. That's a pretty big win. You saw Max Grecian last week against Gadjimurat Antigulov, so there is that. But overall, this fight, it's so contentious. I know a lot of people are high on both guys. It seems to be this is a fight that pulls at the heartstrings, which is a little strange. You look at Magomed Ankalaev, open to minus 340. He's still at a minus 340 right now. The $5 super chat from Brock Lyons, quit tomorrow, Matt. We quit the other day.
I already did. I just got to work my last 2 weeks. Don't worry, guys.
So there's that. But in terms of this fight, I mean, I see it going every way. Time's not aligned like Iwan at the weigh-in and the face-offs. I like Marcus Perez at the weigh-ins when he wears a stupid Joker mask, but he gets beat every time. So I don't have hardly any confidence in Ion Cutelaba. I really don't. He's such a hard fighter to be confident in because he's so inconsistent. He beats those low-level guys. Exactly. He loses to those top-end guys. So this is really a fight where, is Ion Cutelaba a middle-of-the-road guy? Is he a top-end guy? Is he bottom-rung type of guy? And for Ankalaev, are you going to make a mistake in this fight and prove that you're just a middle guy, or are you at the top end? Because I think Magomed Ankalaev, is he going to be a 20 to 15 guy for the longest time? Maybe. But I really do think he's got a good shot in the upper tier of this division. Like, I'm talking top 10.
Yeah, I do think Ankalaev has a much higher ceiling out of these two because Cutelaba, it's a really weird scenario with him. I know he's got good power. I know he's got good output. But his cardio, it's in this weird spot where I don't know if he has decent cardio or if he has bad cardio. And there's a really big difference between those two because if Ion Cutelaba did have even remotely good cardio, if he could be like Paulo Costa and just use his output as an advantage, and yes, I'm going to get tired, but I'm going to throw so much output that I'm going to either damage you to the point where you can't continue, or by throwing all this volume, that's what's going to make me tired. With Cutelaba, he can kind of grapple a little bit. He has a background in wrestling, but then he gets taken down by like Jared Cannonier in their fight at 205. So there's so many question marks around Cutelaba. I know Ankalaev, he's a good grappler. He can strike. There's a lot more kicks than Cutelaba, which I do think is important because Cutelaba just really tries to throw these big bombs over the top. And if you are a dynamic kicker who can go to the calf, who can go to the body, you're going to be able to fight at such a range that Cutelaba won't be able to hit you with that power.
TBOK in the chat.
Thank you.
Super chat, the 1999. We appreciate you, as well as Kevin Gordon in that super chat. I mean, hey, let's start the tide. Let's get it rolling because this comment section is going insane. I'm trying to hop back in and out, but it's very, very difficult. So we look at this one in terms of the picks over at Fight Night Picks on Instagram. 211 total votes for Magomed Ankalaev to 77 for Cutelaba. That's good for 73%. Again, he's more than a 3-1 favorite is Magomed Ankalaev. I'm not changing the pick there. Let's continue on to our next fight. Matt, we have lucky Lauren Murphy taking on Justin Bieber circa 2010. And in this fight, it's tough to tell what you're going to get. I'll be totally honest. The line on Lauren Murphy's been weird this week. It's been one of the stranger ones. 30% clip has Liliya Shakirova's line change over the week. And I mean, if we look at it, Lauren Murphy open to minus 350. We said in the original prediction video, the fight had just been announced at the tail end of last week. We taped those picks on Saturday. So I said Murphy probably at a 4-1. She opened minus 350. She's now at a minus 216. And I get it. I mean, you look at the fight, and for all the parts and pieces, Lauren Murphy on her win streak, they're good wins, but has she won those fights convincingly? Not necessarily. And with Liliya Shakirova, she has some decent wins, but they're not like UFC caliber wins. I mean, some of them are, and I'll get into it. But if we look at it, I mean, Liliya Shakirova, she's supposed to be, a champion wrestler. Her wrestling's not the very best. She does train with a lot of good fighters. I know there's going to be comments and comparisons to Khabib, the Islam Makhachevs, Zubaira Tukhugov, and so on and so forth. She rocks that GFC shirt. Yikes, Guerrilla Fighting Championships. But in this one, she's a dynamic striker. She's not afraid to throw looping shots. She's not afraid to throw spinning wheel kicks to the head. I just think it's way too big of a step up to just hop in on short notice for Cynthia Calvillo and to fight lucky Lauren Murphy in the top half of the division.
I agree 100%. It seems like every Lauren Murphy fight is a title eliminator, and she just never seems to win those fights. But every one of Lauren Murphy's fights, it's going to be entertaining. She's got a pretty good output. She's not afraid to give a shot, or to eat a shot to give a shot. Lauren Murphy against those high-level women in the flyweight division, you're not 100% sure about, but against Shakirova, again, first fight in the UFC, it's hard to fight someone in the top 5, and that goes for any division. Lauren Murphy doesn't have a major weakness in her game either. It's not like Lauren Murphy has, she has bad cardio, or she's not great on the ground, and her opponent can take advantage of these things. No, Lauren Murphy's pretty solid across the board. I really don't see her losing this one.
Jimmy Tuna saying this fight sucks. I mean, hey, Jimmy, it would have been better if we had Cynthia Calvillo in the fight, which is crazy that she didn't get a friggin' title shot after or the win over Jessica Ai in a main event. But you look at this one, I mean, I look at the total picks over on at Fight Night Picks on Instagram. 224 total votes for Murphy to 49 for Liliya Shakirova. That's good for 82% on Lauren Murphy. Akash Deepathi, congrats on 15K subs, boys. We weren't at 15K before this, so you're telling me something new if we are now. Matt awesome. The Mick hanging out. You're here every single week.
Guys.
With the $9.99 in the Super Chat, guys. We really appreciate that. No, please, Shakirova was ranked pound for pound in Russia and China. That's awesome. And I mean, you will be, especially if you're in the regional rankings with Tapology. But I mean, in this one, it is difficult. Jacob Weaver, you're going to cop some merch. You have to cop the merch, Jacob. It seems like a promo, but we do need the likes and the subs, so help us out there. But I mean, in terms of this fight, like I said, Liliya Shakirova is a huge unknown to a lot of MMA fans. You have seen that line creep up on her, so people have done the tape study, and there's a lot of tape out there. But with Lauren Murphy, and she said it as much at the interviews on Media Day, man, I'm taking a huge risk taking this fight. She is 100%, so it should be a good fight, but I'm sticking with the pick of Lauren Murphy, not changing on that. This fight, you want, like, the weirdest fight to be on, like, okay, here's something here. People always complain about Conor McGregor pay-per-view cards, how they're always top-heavy, and you're really paying for that one fight that's up at the top. Now, was Cowboys Cerrone and McGregor the worst? No. Was UFC 202 all that great? No, it wasn't. Was 229 good? Of course it was, but that was like the biggest fight of all time, the biggest pay-per-view of all time. This is such a good pay-per-view, but this fight has no business being on this main card. I mean, you have a fighter that's 4-0 in Jacob Malkoun. Go back and watch his fights. I know, and we talked about it. Main training partner with Robert Whittaker. They're both middleweights, yada, yada, yada. He's supposed to have good wrestling, but it's not that great. He's supposed to have decent jiu-jitsu. He's competed at the ADCC trials over in Australia, which is awesome. His striking's not terrible. I went back and watched, all 4 of the fights again. His hand speed in his last time out was actually pretty good. His forward pressure is pretty good. He won a decision quite well. But apart from that, like, you can't talk about, this guy trains with Robert Whittaker, when Philip Hawes has been a main training partner of John Jones when he was at Jackson Wink, and he's been over with Sanford Hard Knocks 365 for the longest time, training with some of the best people in the world. And I'll stop right here, Matt. We talked about the fact that Rashad Evans is all about the feels and all about how guys are feeling going into fight week. He really talked up Philip Hawes in that interview and talked about the fact the guy's a specimen, but his fight IQ continues to go up. And since we saw him on Dana White's Contender Series the first time, he's been finishing guys left, right, and center. And on his win on Contender Series this summer, it was amazing. It's tough to try and predict this fight. And you can say, you're casual, this and that. And Thomas Hewitt saying they're showcasing Hawes. He's probably going to win impressively. Why would you do that, though? You got a 4-0 guy, and his buddy's fighting in the co-main event. Why would you do that? It just seems like such a stupid throwaway fight to put on the main card of a pay-per-view. Yeah. You're watching us. You don't have to pay for this. You can help us out with a super chat if you want. You have to pay for this fight on pay-per-view. This is insane. I will digress. What do you think about this one?
I think Philip Hawes is going to be able to win this one pretty easily. I don't see this being much of a challenge. Jacob Malkoun, again, when you start saying that the guy's best attribute is that he trains with a former champion, that's great. I'm sure you're learning a lot every day, and I'm sure that guy's going to push you to become the best version of yourself. But, again, it's not like Hawes isn't training with high-level guys. He's trained with the Usmans, the John Jones. Like, I don't see this being much of a challenge for him. I do think he'll be able to win this fight very easily.
Graham McPhee hanging out in the chat. Graham, big moves by the Vegas Golden Knights. I'm talking to you. Now, we look at this one, and Kill Harry over in there. I'm going to show that. You're a donkey. You're a donkey. All right, so we look at this fight, and we look at it for the parts and pieces. Now let's have a look at the odds, because Phil Hawes, a decent favorite in this one, opened at a minus 340. The money's come in on Malkoun. Hawes right now, minus 244. If you look over at Jacob Malkoun, open plus 260s. Now right around a plus 200. And then if we have a look over on the Instagrams, 81% of the total voters going with Philip Hawes in this one. I don't find that as much of a surprise. That's not a surprise to me. I mean, if Jacob Malkoun wins, awesome. That's great. Cool. But again, I think Philip Hawes wins this one every single day of the week. Now we move into a fight that's really difficult. Now I see a lot of people going out there saying Walt Harris is going to get the win. And that's very, very possible. I mean, what do we know about this guy? Striking's on point, dynamite at the end of his hands. And we talk about guys that when they hit, they get that little bit of extra whip in their shot. I mean, you see some guys carry that power late. Walt Harris is one of those guys. If he's going to win this fight, I would hope that he's going to win it in the first round and a half. Yeah. Because after that, 265 thickie Alexander Volkov is going to take over. And listen, am I a big Alexander Volkov fan? No, not necessarily. But if you look at the fights that he's in, he's one of the more efficient guys in this heavyweight division. I see him having a bit of a hard time with Walt Harris, but not as hard of a time as he's had with a lot of his previous opponents.
So one of my best friends loves Alexander Volkov, but can't really tell me why. He's just always like, I just really appreciate his jab, and that's weird. But anyways, Alexander Volkov needs to fight this fight kind of like he fought the Greg Hardy fight. And I know no one wants to hear that because that fight wasn't very good, but he's going to have to be sort of boring, fight behind his jab, use his front kicks, use his range. Because if Walt Harris does what he did against Overeem and just kind of bum rush Alexander Volkov and put it on him early, maybe he can catch him with a big shot and put him down. We know Walt Harris is capable of that. He's got crazy striking, and he's absurdly explosive. He's got good head kicks, but I don't see him landing one of those big shots on a guy like Volkov, who has good footwork, who has a good jab, like we had mentioned. Volkov, the guys who he struggles with are the top-tier grapplers, the top-tier wrestlers, guys who can take him down and hold him down or hold him up against the cage. If you're just another striker and you don't have God-given power like a Francis Ngannou, I don't see you beating a guy like Volkov. If you are just going to go out there and try to have a technical kickboxing fight with him, which is what Walt Harris is probably going to have to do, I understand he's going to hit him with some blitzes and whatnot, but for a lot of this, they're going to be standing at about medium range, trading shots. I think that plays right into Alexander Volkov's game plan. I think if Harris does start rushing forward, Volkov's going to be able to time a knee. I think Volkov, it's not that Walt Harris can't win this fight. It's just I think of all the different ways that Volkov can win this fight, they're numerous.
Matt, so let's have a look at the odds on this one. I mean, Alexander Volkov, he's under a 2-1. He opened -175. He went down to a 2-1. Some late money up until early this week came in on Harris. Now Volkov, a -185 favorite. Walt Harris currently sitting at a +156. So there is that to consider. It seems like a lot of guys are going with Alexander Volkov to get the win, and I'm fine with that. I'm not changing my pick. Over on @Fight Night Picks on the Instagrams, 200 total votes for Volkov to 97 for Walt Harris. That's good for the old 67% split, the 2 out of 3 going with Alexander Volkov. I think it should be a good fight as far as seeding in this division. It's definitely the fight that you need to have. Can Walt Harris kind of get back into that category where he's taking on, well, the Volkovs and the Overeems, but overall, yeah, I don't have Harris in this one. Now, if we move into our co-main event, let us know in the chat who you're going with in this one, because you got the Reaper, Robert Whittaker. Is it Bobby Knuckles anymore? I don't think it is. He's taking on the Killer Gorilla, Jared Cannonier. I love this fight. It's such a tough one to predict. I bounce this one around in my head so much. And as far as wanting to change picks, boy, do I ever want to change my pick on this one. It's tough. It really is. Because with Robert Whittaker, former champ, taking on the best guys in the world, moves up from 70, has tons of success at 85 to the point where he's a champ and defending his belt. For Jared Cannonier, decent heavyweight, not so great light heavyweight, good middleweight. And the last 3 wins, we're talking finishes before the third round. A lot of people coming in here with Whittaker. We got, who else? Craig saying Cannonier by KO. Shoaib Ahmed saying Jared. When did the prelims start? In 18 minutes. But I mean, overall, this one's so tough. So, like I said, I had Cannonier to start the week or back last Saturday. You had Robert Whittaker to get the win. Have you changed your mind in this one?
So, I have the same concern for Robert Whittaker that I do for Dustin Poirier, and these are 2 of my favorite fighters. You can only have so many fights the way that they fight. You can't fight crazy wars every single time out. Now, for Robert Whittaker, the Darren Till fight was very technical, but he did get dropped in that fight and he got hurt. Now, I think that fight was overall more of a positive because it showed that, yes, he can strike with a guy of Darren Till's level and what was pretty much just only a kickboxing fight. Jared Cannonier hits so hard. He's terrifying. He's been able to keep the power that he had at heavyweight just without all the extra fat. He just basically decided, let's get as shredded as possible and fight a bunch of people smaller than me. And if you have knockout power at heavyweight, you definitely have knockout power at middleweight. It's weird because Robert Whittaker, I think it came out, I forget who tweeted this, but Whittaker had a fight at middleweight, or at welterweight against Wonder Boy in February of 2014, and he weighed 170. Jared Cannonier fought in January of 2014 in AFC, and he weighed in at 240. So there's a 70-pound weight difference between these two at one point, and now they're fighting each other, which is a crazy thing to think about. Technically speaking, I think Robert Whittaker does almost everything better. I think he's got better boxing. I think he's got better kickboxing, taekwondo, wrestling, jiu-jitsu. It just really comes down to Jared Cannonier and his absurd knockout ability. Can Robert Whittaker stay elusive enough during the fight to avoid that big shot? And can he stay technical enough that if he has to go for a takedown, if he gets in trouble, can he get it? Can he strike on the outside? There's so many question marks, but I'm still going to pick Whittaker because I think the speed, it's such an advantage over Jared Cannonier in this one.
Now, with Jared Cannonier, you got the power and you got the strength, especially coming down from heavyweight. We've seen that in those 3 fights. Now, David Branch, is he in the UFC anymore? No. Is he the former World Series 2-division champ? Yes, he is. In that fight, Jared Cannonier looked great. So that's your classic, boxer, grappler type of guy, which is what he ended up facing at the end of his little 3-fight sandwich at middleweight.
Yeah.
The last guy being Jack Hermanson. He looked great in that fight. Jack Hermanson just went to the well for his takedowns and didn't have a ton of success with it. And Cannonier beat that ass. Now, if we look at this one, I really do worry about the damage that Robert Whittaker's taken. I do. You look at the UL fights. You look at the fight against Adesanya where he got finished. TKO, he got finished. And then in his last fight against Darren Till, he doubled him in terms of total strikes, which is great. In terms of significant strikes, it was about an extra third. But he did get rocked at the end of that fight, and he did take damage in that fight. It's not like he was some spry chicken that moved in and out and went balls to the wall in that fight. So I do worry about him. In terms of the odds, we'll have a look at your co-main event. It's basically pick'em odds to this point, which is a bit of a surprise. So there's a lot of juice there, especially when you look at a former champ being a guy that's at even. And he's what? He's ranked number 1. Cannonier's number 4 or thereabouts. And if you want to have gripes about the rankings, so be it. I agree with you. But I look at this one. 165 total votes for Robert Whittaker at Fight Night Picks on Instagram. 141 for Jared Cannonier. Man, I have a tough time on this one. Holy frig, this is difficult. I'm going to stick with my pick. I got to be a man of my word. I'm going to stay with Jared Cannonier. It's difficult because, again, the reason why you'd pick Robert Whittaker, in and out, side to side, and if he's able to pepper him with a lot of shots and maybe win a decision, I could see that. Jared Cannonier has all the power in the world, but the pec issue is something that you do have to worry about. That was back in February, a long layoff. I'm going to stick with it. Again, man of my word, I'm going to go with Jared Cannonier, but it should be a great fight. So, now we get into our main event of the evening. Let us know in the comments who you're going with. Is it going to be and still with Khabib Nurmagomedov? Is he going to keep that unbeaten streak going? And on the right-hand side, you have Justin Gaethje, the highlight. This guy, your interim champ. Does he want that belt? No, he doesn't want the interim belt. He wants the legit belt. And in this one, man, he has such a good opportunity to get the win. What does he do well? The low kicks are great. The power is great. The defensive wrestling's great. The offensive wrestling, we haven't seen it since his early pro days. And maybe some of those, again, early World Series fights. With Justin Gaethje, does he have to start quick in this fight?
No, I don't think so. So, Justin Gaethje has taken this really weird trajectory in his career. And when I say weird, I mean it in the most positive sense. Because Justin Gaethje figured out, I can throw a ton of volume and maybe I catch my opponent, maybe they catch me. Or I can be really, really smart and just kind of lessen my output, put more behind my shots, and then go for the knockout. Now, Gaethje, I will say, Trevor Whitman is probably a better quarterman in between rounds than anyone Khabib has currently. Nothing against Javier Mendez or Crazy Bob Cook or any of those guys. I just think that Justin Gaethje and his whole camp has been perfectly suited around Justin Gaethje. I think him training with Kamaru Usman is going to be a big help. And I know I'm really pumping up Justin Gaethje, but trust me, if you pick Gaethje, you're not going to like what I'm going to say next. I think he has the wrestling credentials that when you look at it on paper, you think, okay, if Gaethje can at least keep Nurmagomedov off him for a little while, he might be able to open up and get a big shot and, put him down. I don't see it happening at all. I think Khabib needs one takedown a round. And when you're talking about a guy like Khabib, it's not like he's going for that takedown attempt and then he gets stuffed and okay, now we're going to strike. If he doesn't get that first takedown, he's going to go for it again and again and again. And he's not lying in his interviews. Like Daniel Cormier before the Stipe fight, the third one at least, he kept on saying, oh, I'm going to start wrestling a lot and I'm going to start wrestling more and I'm going to wrestle a lot in this fight. But we never saw that. And Khabib, when he comes out in the media and says, I'm going to take him down 100 times if I have to, he's going to do it. I have no doubt whatsoever that that's what his goal is. And the chain wrestling, I do think is something that's really important because if Gaethje is able to defend that first takedown attempt, and then the second one, though, Khabib starts to have more success, and then the third one, he's able to trip him up. I just think that Gaethje, if you can start to drain that cardio, you can start to really put damage on him, and you can really start to cause a big difference in the fight. So I think Khabib, he only needs that one takedown. If he can get on top of him, make him tired, really wear him out, the submission's going to open up as the fight goes on.
I agree with you. You look at this one for the parts and pieces, and you have to ask yourself, and it's a question you have to ask yourself every time John Jones fight, or there is a John Jones fight. These two guys, Jones and Khabib, they're your pound-for-pound greats. You can throw a prime BJ Penn in there. You can throw George St. Pierre up there. You can. We're talking about some of the best fighters of all time, in the best division of all time where it's been right now. So you look at this, how can you pick against the pound-for-pound great? It's really difficult to try and find somebody that can get a win over Khabib Nurmagomedov. Now, CJ brings up a good point. Are we going to talk about how Khabib looked at weigh-ins? Okay, so he weighed in with the towel, and he weighed in at 155. But then if you watch the interview right after that, he's 100% fine.
I don't think he had a good weight cut by any means. I think Craig might be sugarcoating it a little bit. It's always been a struggle for him to get to 155. That's not a new narrative that's coming out right now. It's not like he ever made 155 comfortably. Justin Gaethje doesn't cut a lot of weight. So I do think that'll be interesting. If Gaethje can defend some takedowns, and if the weight cut was really hard on Nurmagomedov, Gaethje doesn't cut a lot of weight, he's got good cardio, maybe the fight will be competitive going down the stretch. But you have to look at every Khabib fight. What happens? Well, he strikes just well enough to get his arms around you, and the second he drags you to the ground, you get tired a lot faster than he does. So I think if you really want to simplify the fight, you can just say that.
So this should be such a good fight. If you watch that BT Sport promo, don't lie to me. You teared up. I know you did. But in terms of the total picks over at Fight Night Picks, 66% going with Khabib Nurmagomedov. I mean, 201 votes for Nurmagomedov to 103 for Justin Gaethje. Really close. If we have a look at the odds on this one, Matt, you've got Khabib. He's too much of a favorite for me. He opened at minus 350. He's now minus 320. For Justin Gaethje, he's at a plus 250. I don't see a ton of value in that one, but I still have Khabib Nurmagomedov to get the win in this one. It's hard not to pick against, again, an all-time great. It should be such a good fight. It's one of those ones that we say, you know, this is a pop and popcorn type of fight, but you're going to be on the edge of your seat, and it's awesome that we get a fight this early. So we get 10 minutes before this card starts. What we do with Fight Night Picks, question mark kicks, we're going to go back through our total picks. So if you missed anything, let's get into it. Zane hit us up with a super chat, the 1999. I think I might have missed the other super chat. If I did, I apologize. Manoj Reddy, love your work.
Thank you.
Pick of the day with the $10 super chat. You want my pick of the day? Let's see. I like Jung in his fight against Sam Alvey.
Safe one.
So I'll give you that one. I think it's a safe one, but I do like that one. So let's go to the bottom and go all the way up through. Joel Alvarez taking on Alexander Yakovlev. You worry about the weight cut for Joel Alvarez. I still have the pick in this one. But again, minus 185, minus 195. Am I jumping out at the line? Maybe not necessarily. I really didn't like it, though, when he was minus 285. I'm sticking with Alvarez.
Alvarez all day.
Matt's got Alvarez. So we look at our next fight. Liana Jojua, Miranda Maverick. The most overpriced line on the entire card. And people keep betting on Miranda Maverick. You fools. This one's ridiculous. I think Jojua has a great shot, especially as a huge underdog, but I will slightly side with Miranda Maverick in this one.
Yeah, Miranda Maverick, just her wrestling defense should be enough to get it done.
Matt's got her. All right, Jung, Sam Alvey. Jung's my favorite pick on this card.
Yeah, Jung, without a doubt.
Alex Oliveira taking on Shavkat Rakhmonov. I love this fight. It's my fight of the night. I think it should be great. It's a great proving ground for Shavkat Rakhmonov and Kazakhstan, and I think that Rakhmonov is going to get the win here.
I agree 100%.
Matt, our next fight, we've got Nathaniel Wood, Casey Kenny. This one's tough. This one's really tough. Now, I'm going to side with Casey Kenny. Pop and popcorn type of fight. I really like this matchmaking. It's great. I'm going to go with Sunburnt Kenny.
Yeah, I'm going with Casey Kenny. I wouldn't be surprised if Nathaniel Wood won this fight by any means, and I do think the ceiling for both guys is quite high, but I'm sticking with Kenny.
All right, our next fight. This one's tough. I did switch my pick from earlier on in the week. I'm going with Tai Tuivasa in this one. It should be a great fight, but again, if he can back up Stefan Struve, there's your path to victory, and Stefan Struve gets backed up every single fight.
I was going to say, if you can back up Stefan Struve, you're either the Wind or another MMA fighter. So yeah, I think Tai Tuivasa, the pressure's going to get to him, the low kicks and the power will be able to knock him out eventually.
Matt, we both have Tai Tuivasa. Our next fight, we got Magomed Ankalaev taking on Iwan Cutelaba. You can try and convince me that Cutelaba wins, and if he does, that'd be great. Am I going to lose sleep over it? No. But I've got Magomed Ankalaev in the rematch.
Much more dynamic guys, Ankalaev. Hard to pick against him.
Matt, our next fight, this one's sketchy. I would stay away from it because the line was, minus 350 for Murphy. A lot coming in on Liliya Shakirova, and it's great to see another fighter from Uzbekistan. I know Magomed is another fighter from the country. It's great to see. I'm still going Lauren Murphy. Again, you're top end of the division, and you have somebody coming in on short notice. It's really tough to side with that short notice fighter. But hey, if Liliya Shakirova gets a win, holy smokes. I mean, the world is yours, as Nas said. But yeah, I'm going Lauren Murphy in this one.
Yeah, Lauren Murphy, hard to pick against her when every other fight she's in seems to be like she's going to fight for the title.
Jimmy Tuna over in the chat, you got to stop it, buddy. All right, so Jacob Malkoun taking on Philip Hawes. Such a weird fight. I'm going Philip Hawes in this one. I think he gets it done. And again, Jacob Malkoun at 4-0 on a Khabib and Justin Gaethje pay-per-view. It's kinda insane. Wild. It's weird. I'm going Hawes.
Hawes all day. It's a showcase.
All right. And then in our next fight, Alexander Volkov, Walt Harris. This is a tough one. I'm going to side with the former Bellator and M1 Global champion, Alexander Volkov.
My buddy Tim's going to love this. I'm picking Alexander Volkov.
Matt's got Volkov. Our next one, Whittaker Cannonier. Again, man of my word, this is a tough one. If I lose it, I lose it. But I'm going with Jared Cannonier in this one. This should be such a good fight. I'm really looking forward to this.
Yeah, I think Whittaker's going to be able to get it done. I know he's a smaller guy. I know I worry about some of the damage that he's taken. But when you just look at his skills, he's better than Jared Cannonier, so it's hard to pick against him.
Daddy Macon, do these guys keep a record of their picks? They're down below in the chat every week. Down below in the description. In our main event of the evening, you have the Eagle, Khabib Nurmagomedov, looking to go a perfect 29-0, taking on Justin Gaethje, the highlight. This should be such a good fight. I'm going with the arguable GOAT. Now, pour moi, mon GOAT, c'est Georges St-Pierre, but Khabib's getting up there, and I mean, if he goes 29-0, is that the fight to make? Should be good. I'm going with Khabib.
I think Khabib's going to get to 30-0. I'm just going to say it right now. I don't care who he fights next. He's going to keep on winning. I think he's going to be able to get this done. Gaethje is a unique problem to solve for Khabib, but I think he's more than qualified to do it.
Trent LeBlanc has the best chat out there. So, thanks for the super chat, but I think Jojua wins because she'll stand there and be Georgian. Hey, the Georgians are winning all day. This should be such a great card. I appreciate everybody for tuning in. We were over 1,000 people at a time.
Guys.
I mean, toss us the like and the sub. We're just going to keep on rolling. You got to help out the Matt Quit His Job Fund, though. I know a lot of people came through in the clutch a couple weeks ago, but keep that going. Keep hitting up the super chat, tuning in. I mean, listen, we're all fight fans, right? We all enjoy this stuff, so enjoy the card. It starts in 5 minutes. I mean, it should be such a good one. We're really looking forward to it. We really appreciate everybody for tuning in. Matt, any parting thoughts before we leave?
No, just thank you guys. The numbers keep on growing. It's crazy. It's really nice to have this communication with you guys. And yeah, let's just keep on growing.
Matt, let's keep on growing. Let's have a good weekend. Everybody enjoy the fights. And as we always say, let's get into it.
Ladies and gentlemen, recorded in Fredericton, New Brunswick, Canada, it's time for the Fight Night Picks podcast with your host, Craig
And Matt.
and